Hey guys, what is going on? This is your host Madman, and this is True Detective Season 2, Episode 1. So I'm not sure if I'll finish this series of recordings anytime soon, but I did want to just sort of jump in and give my 2 cents on this sequel to the epic series that I just finished commentating on. This one's not as good, but it's also a lot more ambitious, has a lot more characters, and the plot is a lot more complex. So I'm inclined to sort of give it a break. And it is only 8 episodes. Obviously, before I did this commentary, I didn't download a non-torrent of the Not series on my Not computer. So I did confirm that, yeah, there's only 8 episodes. I could have sworn there were more than that. Which speaks to the ambitiousness of this series. Again, we have a very similar intro. T-Bone Burnett's doing the music. It's a terrific song. Lyrics are kind of creepy. The war was lost, but I live among you. My children live among you. Got a woman with a camera for an eye. You know, very good intro. In a lot of ways, this is a worthy successor to the first series. I live among you well disguised. Who could he be? What could he mean with those lyrics? What could he be talking about? Perhaps we'll glean a grain of the answer by watching this. So right away we have this weird M symbol. It's kind of funny. You zoom in on a black M on these construction pylons, these property line pylons. They're like gravestones. It's like, build things at any cost. That's what those people who are the M people want to do. That's just what the series is saying, guys. It's, it's what you're seeing in front of your face right now. And then we have this fat ginger kid and his dad. And man, the dad has the dirtiest of dirty Sanchez's ever. It's like he stuck his face in a cat's litter box. Like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? That mustache is whack, man. The edges are not trimmed well at all. Like, holy shit, dude. And the guy's looking at his dad like, nothing's fun for me, man. I'm a fat ginger kid. What do you think my life is going to be like, Fuck's sake. Calls him buddy. It's like he's not his real son, and he's using the term buddy to kind of make a false bond, He is his real son, but, the family split up. There's all sorts of dysfunctional shit going on. Because that's how we create dramas, with tension and tragedy and dysfunction. Oh, it's so dramatic. This poor kid, man. Growing up as this kid is like life kicking you in the balls right out of the womb, man. Thing is, all these thin, edgy dudes making fun of him are probably going to end up as heroin addicts, and this fat ginger guy is going to be some tech CEO that's thin as a rail and sexy when he's fucking 35, when he's ground his way out of his childhood. But anyway, going back to this guy doing a testimony, and right away he's talking about some heinous shit. So this kid, they're not sure whose kid it is, because his wife was forcibly, sexually fiddled with. And so this guy is sort of eternally cucked, but he's not even cucked because he doesn't even know. He doesn't even have a straight answer whether his son is his or not. And he obsesses so much about that. It's a hell of a thing. Anybody would obsess about it if they were sane. But he's so obsessed with it that he destroys what little relationship he could possibly have with his kid. He's like, I got these digital recorders. They're like iPads or something, whatever the kids call them. I don't know, my mustache is so shitty. I'm just inhaling shit with every breath. I can't get over it, man. I haven't watched this series straight up in like A long time, man. It's been like 5 or 6 years since I saw this. So a lot of this is just me riffing off my first impressions. And so this lawyer he's talking to is like, well, what about a paternity test? The most logical, sane thing. And he's very stubborn. He's like, well, my son is my son. I definitely don't care about who his real father was. Of course he does. You know, he's a very bad liar. This is not Rust and Cole. This is not even Marty. This guy's a whole other ball of worms here. And so now he's trying to bribe this chick. Either that or he's paying her. I mean, it's a weird gesture to just shove a bunch of money. And he's like, I welcome judgment. Oh, do you, buddy? Do you really? Judgment's not just served to you, it's served to those you love first, and then to you. If you want the spectacle of judgment, of your own judgment, you want to witness that. It's not a form of suicide. It's not a quick and easy path. Everything around you rots slowly first. Then you get to die. AKA you go to hell. To be judged, you have to go to hell. The courts are all in hell. You think heaven would keep its, would shit where it eats, would keep the demonic judgment courts next to it? No, they're cordoned off. They're in a whole other sector of reality. It's the whole point of that entire conception of judgment in the Judeo-Christian sense is that the judges are not right next to God. They're in another realm. They're in hell. So now we have good old Vince Vaughn, the legend. And man, when this series came out, the memes that were generated about it were so fucking funny, man. I made a few myself back in the day, and whenever this came out, 2018, 19, something like that. Because he has some funny, dialogue that's a bit cheesy because the series kind of leans on it a bit too much. But anyway. Basically, he's resorted to dealing with the mob to find the guy who raped his wife. And it's like, well, this guy's a drug addict, and he bragged about raping a woman, and we think this is the guy. But we're not sure. They can't guarantee anything. The mob doesn't have a 100% guarantee that they've identified the guy. Imagine a clandestine rogue organization like that not being 100% sure that they got the right guy. But this guy's offered the money. So of course they're going to be enthusiastic about their judgment, Again, the irony is he says, I welcome judgment. Well, these demons that you've consigned the role of detective to find out who raped your wife, they're going to judge whoever the first guy is that fits the description, man. And you could argue the same thing's true of the police. Maybe that's what this series is trying to say too, but if you focus on just the characters and their flaws, this guy's just trying to make money. We cut to him potentially later in time, we're not sure. He's gone from a seedy bar to a expensive penthouse. So this is implied to be the future. Again, this series does time jump, if I recall correctly. If I'm time jumping in my own brain correctly, then yes, this series does indulge in the same type of temporal jumping around that the first one does. Because this guy's gone from being in a seedy basement bar to some penthouse, so he's graduated. His grift has evolved, and he's been able to work his way up in the world. He's got a thin ginger wife with too much eyeliner on. Very epic dude. That's for the purposes of filming the scene, but serves a dual purpose because it shows that she's basically just not a whore. I don't want to be derogatory. I don't want to be misogynistic in this series, but she's a high-level female human. And she's picked her guy because he appeals to her. She's chosen him. It's never the opposite. The man never chooses the woman always chooses the man. I think that's true. Any relationship that lasts longer than 6 months, the woman has chosen the guy. And the guy is just kind of along for the ride. If he's half intelligent, he's realized, holy fuck, some woman picked me. Either that or my whole conception of that is based on a late stage society that worships women too much, and all the men are just subservient cucks, which is why the society's falling apart. It could be that, guys, I'm not sure. Comment in the chat, in the YouTube comments, if you think I'm right or wrong. We'll do a poll, we'll do a straw poll. As if. So now he's running a casino. And now I'm thinking my earlier comment about time jumping was wrong. I think maybe it was just a cut from one day to another here. I think Nicole Pizzeria, whatever the fuck the guy's name is, maybe he wanted to resist the whole time jumping thing for this second season. Mix it up a bit. That's a good idea. You don't want the second season to be a copy of the first, because everybody will just shit on it, even if it's a good copy, even if it's slightly better, you know. And so they're all talking about publicity and play. And he says, this place is built on a dependency of interest. And he's already suspicious of this lackey of his. Keep that in mind for the future episodes. Everybody gets touched. Everybody has to fuck Harvey Weinstein at least once. It's part of the deal. A lot of the shots in this are reminding me a lot of Godfather. It's very, sort of old school. I mean, again, they're in California. You've got a lot of older people. You've got the sort of West Coast mafia. Now we've cut to this totally different scene with this guy in this classic car, this old Jaguar or Cadillac or something. And there's a creepy raven mask in the front seat. What could that mean? Remember in True Detective Season 1, everybody was wearing animal masks. Very creepy. Got a great aerial shot of these mountains and the freeways, man. God, that is brilliantly done. That's a beautiful shot. Top 10 computer wallpapers number 4. The scene from True Detective Season 2 with a pan over the interchange. And so they're talking about some sexual shit. This is 2 new characters. We're being slapped in the face with new characters. And the guy's like, come on, I would have slapped you or choked you if you just asked me. Was that why you couldn't come? I thought it was me. Because you weren't honest about what you wanted sexually, I assumed I did something wrong. What the fuck, man? Have you done that a lot? Breath play's kind of risky. You can, die accidentally. But hey, I like you, so I'd be willing to do it. That's the subtext of this scene. The dialogue's nonsense. It means nothing. The subtext is they're referring to something she wanted him to do sexually that he wouldn't do. That's the truth of the scene. That's what's actually being said. I'm a subtext translator. I'll tell you what's actually being said to save you the trouble. And she's like, I don't even want to talk about it. So she's being very masculine here. She's being very defensive. Defensiveness in sex is traditionally associated with men. We don't want to talk about what we really want. It's a detriment. It's a weakness. And this chick, something happened to her in her past, or, maybe it's just who she is genetically. Maybe it's a combination. Who knows? But she's being very sort of standoffish to this guy. And the guy's being pretty accommodating. He's like, hey, look, I'll do whatever you want me to do. I like you as a person. But that threatens her, that he's that generous. She doesn't want that. It's like she wants to be punished, And then, of course, we see that she's a cop. And coincidentally, the next scene is her infiltrating an OnlyFans house run by some kind of internet pimp guy. They've got epic 2006 webcams. It's a cam show farm, And this guy's like, look, everything I'm doing is legal. The girl's agreed to it. And she's got such a hard-on. Her clit is bulging right now just to bust these people up. And she's a very sex-negative woman. I'm going to say it. The character is very sex-negative. She's struggling with sex in her own life, So she punishes those around her by blue-balling them. But then it turns out she knows this one chick, just from her expression. And the funny thing is, this girl's got a fake police uniform on. Again, this is on the nose. This series is a marked downgrade from the first one. And so it's implied, you know, these two women had some sort of experience in their past, each one of them, and they've both coped with it in different ways. One of them's become a hyper-masculine cop, the other one's become an e-thought. And she's like, this isn't healthy for you to do this. And she's like, what do you know about being healthy? When you walk, it's like erasers clapping. God damn. The female insults. Woo! Rather be punched in the face by a guy than be insulted by a woman. That's like destroying, soul-destroying shit. Jesus Christ. This chick's like, I'm a former drug addict. I gave up drugs. And this chick's like, well, maybe you should do some more. You know, very fucking deep insults, man. If a guy said that to another guy, the guy who was insulted would just kill him. Like, that's insane. And again, I'm getting kind of gender politicsy in this because the True Detective series, all 4 seasons really, are very much invested in that kind of cultural debate or sparring match, which itself is a distraction and a bunch of subversive nonsense. But the important thing isn't to recognize that it's subversive nonsense. The important thing is to try to process it. And as a culture, we process these sort of psychic attacks from our rivals by making art about them. And the art is a sort of container. It's a kind of runic binding system that negates the power of those attacks. And series like this are very rare in that they're actually trying to do that. They're trying to be defensive containment units. They're not, you know, it's like Ghostbusters with the little ghost containers. That's what True Detective is like. When the West is attacked by its rivals in certain ways, we produce art as a defense mechanism in the same way that other cultures produce propaganda. We're just better at it. We're just better at making art. I don't feel like that's a novel claim to make. We're masters of illusion. It's what we do. You want to try to attack us subversively, we'll produce an illusion that's better than the subversion that it counters. I mean, the illusion will become more popular than the attack. That's been true for half a century. I'm not pointing out anything genius by saying that, you know. You can see it. You've experienced it. You've been programmed on it since you were a kid. If you're listening to this now, whoever you are, you know, if you're between ages 20 and 50 watching this, you know what I'm talking about. And so now we cut to another character. My God, this series has introduced like half a dozen characters in fucking less than 20 minutes. That's crazy. That's why people didn't like this. It's rapid-fire character introduction. Now we have this highway ranger type guy. And this girl is speeding. And he just pulls her over for speeding. And then he sees she has a fucking ankle bracelet on. Kind of not supposed to be speeding in your car or down the highway. And he's like, what, are you drunk? Can I easily pin you for that and avoid having to deal with the whole house arrest bracelet situation? And he's like, no, I'm going to have to do that. Again, subtext. It's not what they're saying literally. It's their facial expressions. It's the way the shots are composed and what objects they focus on in the scene. And she uses the word escort here, very provocative. Maybe you could just escort me home. And he goes, sorry, I'm gay, so that tactic won't work on me. His face is like stone. It's like a gay Greek statue. He's like, my weakness is I'm gay, but it's also a strength because feminine crap doesn't make me blow up my whole life. And then he's arguing. He's like, this actress violated her parole. She swerves into traffic high, freaks out, and I'm getting punished for it. And it's like, yeah, dude, she's an actress and you're in fucking California. What side did you expect your superiors to take? The actress's side or the grunt cop drone side? Of course they're going to take her side, man, for fuck's sake. This poor guy, man. It's not revealed till later that he's gay, but that's not me joking. He really is in the story. And he's like, I like being out on the highway. I don't like doing desk work or arresting crackheads in the urban zone, you know. Much better on the open road. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope are gay. Homo on the range, that's this guy. It's like, I want to be out in the country where I can do sinful shit and feel like I'm not being judged. And it's not that the sin is that he's gay, it's that he's closeted. You know, we just saw in the previous scene a woman, police officer, who's... It's never really revealed what her fetish is or what she wants sexually, but she's insecure about it, and her insecurity is a greater weakness than her sin. Her insecurity is like a sin on top of a sin. It's like, at least admit what you want, what your flaws are. If you don't even admit that, you're making it 10 times worse. It's like having a medical condition, like your leg's infected, and you don't go to a doctor. It's like, there's spiritual equivalents to that, man. No one's free of sin. You know, you might just be gay for the rest of your life. It doesn't mean you can't repent. You know, you might have a husband if you're a guy. Doesn't mean that you can't live a half-decent life. You just have to own it. You have to admit it. You have to confess it to society in some form. And that's what True Detective Season 1 is about, because if you remember, Marty's wife says Marty's real problem was he couldn't admit what he... Or, sorry, Marty said about Rust, that Rust couldn't admit he needed a family. He wanted to be an edgy loner, and he couldn't. At the same time, Marty needed a side hoe, and he couldn't admit that he needed that. Or that his wife was not satisfying him. There are things they needed to confess that they couldn't put into words. They couldn't own them. They couldn't own their flaws. And this series the theme is the same. It's people who are dragged down not by their flaws themselves, but by their inability to admit them, to own up to them, to in some way transcend them despite their persistence in their life. Like you know, you will die having the same flaws you were born with, whether they're societal or trauma-based or genetic. Does it really matter? There are certain flaws you can get rid of. There are bad habits you can erase from your life. You can delete them. You can dominate and destroy them. You can transcend them. There are other aspects of yourself that you can't. And admitting that is important, because it doesn't matter whether you're doing it to the church or to a psychiatrist or a therapist or just to yourself privately. You just have to perform that admission, because it's a form of catharsis that your brain needs. We all need it, you know. And these characters, they've got some hang up. They've got jobs, they've got lives, you know, they're contributing members of society, but they're in hell. They're all suffering because they've avoided something. So, these two detectives, this drunk fat guy who was also in True Detective Season 1 as a different character, he's our one of our main characters' partners here. And they're investigating this creepy California sex house. And I would say that this is over the top, but go look at like house listings for like $2 million houses in California. You'll see everything you're seeing here. There's nothing, you know, crazy, occult, secretive about this type of house. They're everywhere, man. It's, you know, wake up. This is not a, you know, it's not a new thing. I'll never forget. I was in South America when I was a kid with my parents. And I won't specify which country because you fucks probably already know what I'm talking about. But I was in a South American country, a tourist friendly one. And my parents were touring houses. And we went to this one house that was, it's like $750,000, $800,000 house. This is in the early 2000s though. So nowadays it'd be like a million, million and a half. And the dude who owned the house had all this like pornographic art on the walls, and it wasn't even good. It was like shit you would make in like Photoshop. Like it was like AI generated shit before that was a thing. Just like fantasy art, girls with dragons with their boobs out. It was like really cringy, corny D&D tier shit. And it reminds me of the paintings in this house, which are supposed to be these sort of artistic, Pablo Picasso type. Oh, it's slightly cubist, so it's not porn. It's like come on, man. Like I'd rather see Dick Halloran's painting from The Shining. The chick with the big afro. The afro's the real point of the scene, point of the painting. Anyway, they're at this party, and there was a previous scene where there was probably some important dialogue that I glossed over, but we're going to keep going. Again, I assume you've seen this before, or else why would you be listening to my commentary about it? So I'm not going to follow the dialogue like a book on tape recording. I'm going to insert my own opinions into this. That's the whole point. But our main character, he's this former mobster guy, and he's kind of out of place here. Like he's cleaned himself up enough that he's got a facade going that people seem to respond to. But again, he can't admit to himself that he's just a mobster. He's just a crook. He wants to transcend it, but he's over ambitious. And the creepy thing about his character in this, Vince Vaughn's character, this series, I think, was overly ambitious. And I think its creator may have sensed that it was, even before it got made. I'm being very generous to him by assuming that. Let's say he realized it, during the writing process. Maybe he didn't realize it consciously. Maybe it was a subconscious thing. Maybe he didn't realize it at all, and it's just me riffing. Whatever the case, Vince Vaughn's character in this, where he's sort of out of his depth, reminds me of the premise for this whole series, where it's very ambitious. It has twice the number of main characters at least as the previous series has. But it's still just 8 episodes. Like it has so little time to develop all these characters that it's overly ambitious. It's like Vince Vaughn's character, where he's trying to do too much. He's out of his depth. And one of the things, again, that I love about the previous series is that it just has like 4 or 5 characters that are important, and it develops them all perfectly. This one has twice that amount of people, and it tries to develop all of them, and it's just a mess in a lot of ways. There are a lot of flaws with this that are not present in the previous series. But anyway, let's rubber band back to the show. Our epic masculine woman police detective is interviewing this Hispanic mother whose daughter has disappeared. And she's like, oh, she went to this creepy cult institute, this Californian hippie demonic drug thrall cult. And she goes, oh yeah, okay, I know that place. I love this shot. Very, very cool, panning over an industrial zone with an American flag. Yeah, industry and America are both bad. We'll say that with one aerial shot. Yeah, industry is really terrible. It provides you with an increased lifespan and all the conveniences of time-saving technologies and opportunities to do what I'm doing right now. That's very evil. We should all just eat berries in the woods and die at age 20. That'd be a much better system. You fucking kidding me, man? Again, the director knows who he's selling his movie to. Ironically, this season, much more than the first, is criticizing Hollywood. It's not criticizing Hollywood specifically, because it's not quite the right area of California, but it's like he's inching closer and closer to California. and then something happened. And in season 3, he sort of rubber bands back out, further out. And season 3 is very pessimistic. It's almost like he wanted to do something different, the director of this. But he sort of got too close to some things with this series, this season in particular. It talks about Hollywood parties with hookers of dubious age. It's very risky, man. If your benefactors, you know, they're used to being insulted to a degree, but if you go too far, you know, maybe seasons 3 and 4 of your brainchild series are going to be sabotaged in subtle ways. Because season 3 and 4, I'm not going to do a commentary about season 4. Enough has been said about it already. It's not as bad as people have said it is, but, you know, I might talk about season 3, because season 3 is still pretty good, despite, you know, existing under the conditions that I'm sure it was forced to exist in. But season 2 of this, you know, it's close enough to season 1 that I wanted to talk about it, which is why I'm making this. And so this doomsday cultist guy, this sort of Jim Jones hippie dude, he's like, oh, we're in the final age of man and blah, blah, blah. It's not like people have been saying that for 1,000 years. And society never ends, it just mutates. If you can mutate with it, you're fine. If you can't mutate with it, then yeah, from your individual point of view, you're going to experience the apocalypse because you're not going to be able to adapt to the times. You're going to be left behind. So we're rapidly cutting back to our other character. The series is very frenetic, which is why I think I'm ranting so much about unrelated shit, because trying to keep up with it is just, it's exhausting. Even trying to watch it. You know, you gotta, again, these first 2 seasons, they merit multiple viewings, but this one is tough to follow. It's not even that it's cuts back and forth between the characters are too quick in a temporal sense. It's that when you have a scene, you're given like, you're not given a lot of screen time within that one scene to get to know the character that's being showed to you. You know, you have these snippets of their lives, and you know, by necessity, the snippets have to lean on exposition more than the first season did, which was clever in how it delivered exposition because of the police interviews and the shuffled chronology. This one, we don't have access to that. We just have rapid cuts. I mean, it's, you know, season 1 was the perfect gem that came out of this whole idea. But season 2, you know, despite its flaws, it's close enough to it. And it kind of gets desperate and goes crazy. Like the narrative of this show is so close to reality, despite being a narrative, a lie, an illusion, that I think that's why the 3rd and 4th season are so much worse, because the creator was kind of pushed out of his own thing. You know, the powers that be, the people funding it were like, we've got to control this before it gets out of our hands. This guy's too smart. He's getting too close to things. We have to push him out somehow. And then they did, you know. I don't know how much involvement he had, the original director, in season 3, but in season 4 he had no involvement, and he hates season 4. There's been all this Twitter drama with season 4 of this having come out recently, with him, you know, lashing out against the thematic choices and the narrative choices that were made. And good for him, man. If someone takes your vision and rapes it, you know, you should be traumatized. You should be like this cop chick. You know, you should confess your trauma. You should say, these guys took my series away because I wouldn't kowtow to them. Here's how I feel about it. You should be open and honest about it and broadcast that shit. We live in a culture that allows that. Take advantage of it. Don't keep quiet. Don't be embarrassed. The more you say, the better. Worst thing you can do is go mute and say nothing. You know, become some sort of mute freak rotting away in a house. It's better to broadcast. Better to say whatever you feel the need to say. Society might react negatively to it. They might kill you for it, but better to be dead if the society you're in is going to kill you for what your honest opinions are. You know, better to die. I think that's true. I know it sounds melodramatic, but I think it's true. It's better to just say what's true and die for it than it is to live a lie. So again, this is this creepy cult guy's daughter. And he's trying to tell her, oh, well, you know, you're angry. And you have this desire for, you know, this recompense, this the world owes me a living attitude. You know, he's giving her boomer wisdom, which is flawed as fuck, cloaked in some kind of hippie crap. And initially when I watched this, I sort of took his side. I was like, well, his daughter's being kind of a stubborn bitch. Now I'm like, no, I take her side. This guy's totally checked out. He's just repeating platitudes and he doesn't actually understand his own daughter. He doesn't understand his own kids. He's out of touch. And then we cut, of course, back to Dirty Sanchez here. I'm just going to call him Dirty Sanchez because I don't give a shit who the actor is, and the character's name I've forgotten over the years. So we're just going to call him Dirty Sanchez because I hate his mustache. And here we have the dubious dad, the cuck dad, and the poor kid caught in between this bullshit. Would have been better if one of the dads blew their brains out or ran away or died. And he was like, well, my original dad died, now this is my dad. Doesn't matter who it was, blah, blah, blah. Instead, he's caught in this eternal limbo hell with J.C. Penney catalog guy and Dirty Sanchez competing for his attention. What a nightmare, man. I mean, And, you know, this guy's drunk. He's so desperate to be a dad for his kid that he's going way too far. He's like, I'll beat up your bullies. I'll fucking kill him. Like, he's psychotic. He's an idiot. You know, you're making your rival, J.C. Penney Metro Soy Boy Dad, look a hell of a lot more appealing by freaking the fuck out. Man, you're really digging your own grave, you know. And he doesn't even realize it. He's so cooked, man. This guy's sort of cooked from the start. I feel like they tried to make his character sort of resemble late stage Rustin Cole from season 1, where he's just cooked on booze and whatever else, booze and drugs. But it's hard to sympathize with the guy when he's cracked from the start. Like, the character is so he's so cooked from the beginning. It's hard to develop sympathy for him. And so then the series has to adapt to that by sort of forcing your sympathy on him by having all these tragic things happen to him over and over again, one after another. You know, Vince Vaughn's character in this is the real interesting protagonist. The female cop character, she's got her own story. She's kind of cool. She has some good lines of dialogue. But Vince Vaughn's character is the star of this season, as far as I'm concerned, because his ambition to transcend his criminal background is very classic mob movie. It's very Goodfellas, very Casino with Robert De Niro, very Godfather-esque. That's the reason to watch this, is for Vince Vaughn. It's why all the memes that were generated when this series dropped, all the memes were Vince Vaughn memes. They were all about his dialogue and his narrative, because he's the most interesting character in this. Oh, some more epic butt shots. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. I really want to see some jacked Hispanic guy's ass. That's why I tuned into season 2. Fuck's sake. Censoring nudity doesn't have to be corny. It can be artistic. You can avoid a lurid display. It's not even a censorship. It's just being selective and avoiding luridness. That's not censorship, man. Don't show me locker room scenes where I can see people's ass cracks. I don't want to see that. When I want to see it, I'll go on Fur Affinity. I don't want to see it when I'm watching a series that's supposed to be about the characters' personalities. It's supposed to be about their inner struggles, not their external shells, their meat spacesuits. That is so fucking boring, man. Meat spacesuit, physical, sexual, sensual shit is boring. If you're not bored by it now, eventually you will be. Everyone listening to this, that's true. You're eventually going to be bored with coming. It's not going to do anything for you. You're going to be this guy. This poor motherfucker. He's trying so hard to be straight. He's trying so hard to just be normal. He's so desperate to be anything but what he is. He's taking Viagra because he's not attracted to this chick. Not her specifically. He's not attracted to chicks, period. Some Brokeback Mountain shit. There's a great scene in Brokeback Mountain where one of the characters flips his wife over and fucks her from behind. And in the movie, we're not told whether it's, he's anal or vaginal, whatever. The point is that he wants to pretend she's a guy, so he flips her over to not see her vagina. That's the whole point of that scene in Brokeback Mountain. This is the same type of shit, where this guy is so desperate, he's in denial, that he's resorting to all these crazy things. He's taking pharmaceuticals. I mean, it's just pathetic, man. It's sad. Like, maybe society's gonna kill you for being gay, for being what you are. So die, Dying as a flawed person that society rejected, even if they torture you beforehand, it's better than living a lie. Living a lie is the worst torture. Living a lie is hell times 1,000. It is pure hell, because the dishonesty, the disingenuousness, the deception, constant energy, constant effort put into those masks, those deceptive facades, it will erode your soul faster than you can realize it. And again, this concept applies to this scene too. Not in a sexual way, in a business type way. Where Vince Vaughn, again, he's trying to claw himself out of his crook past. And he's dealing with this guy Osip, this Russian guy, this creepy Russian. An American businessman con artist dealing with a Russian. Isn't that interesting? This is well before the Trump-Russia shit. Isn't it interesting that this came out first? It's almost like, well, I'm not even going to say. It's just weird. It's a little bit coincidental. Bit creepy, isn't it? So again, he's trying to give this guy a good time, entertain him, He's got all sorts of business machinations in his brain. He wants them to all work out. And he's dealing with mobsters that are on a level that he's not used to. He is out of his depth. Vince Vaughn, your hairline is too high for this. Your forehead is on display. Your pineal gland is vulnerable. Don't let them attack it. Throw a glass into the wall, yes. Then we pan up to straight up Fallout house. What the fuck is this guy's house? It's Ginger Chubb's dad, Dirty Sanchez, basically trying to surrogate avenge his son. This is the worst possible way to do this. It's psychotic. He's insane. This scene, I'm going to say it, this is more psychotic than any act that Rust or Marty did in season 1. Again, this is season 2, so we gotta one up season 1. We gotta make it more crazy. I don't think the director would have done this if he didn't think he had to get the season made. I think this is a sort of corrupted scene. If this was season 1 Nick Pizzeria, whatever his name is, I don't think it would have been this crazy. But it's season 2. It's scrambling for funding. It's scrambling to impress the executives. My God, I'll destroy my own artistic vision just to impress the person who's funding it. Maybe it shouldn't exist. Maybe season 1 was perfect and you didn't even need to make this. Maybe you should have stopped. You should have quit while you're ahead. I'm reminded of an adage about Jimi Hendrix where there was a comedian who made a bit about Jimi Hendrix's work and said, people lament the fact that he died. Oh, he could have made so many more albums. Maybe he was out of ideas. Maybe he died exactly when he was supposed to die. I think it's a dark interpretation, but I'm not making fun of it. I'm being serious. Maybe that is a good thing. Maybe Jimi Hendrix died right after he did the best he could. He made the most beautiful things he could make. And his death was like a blessing. It was a gross, awful thing that he died the way he did, but he choked on his own puke. Hell of a way to die. But I don't know, man. Watching season 2 of this, it's like listening to an album from a musician that's like their last gasp, like their swan song. It's why I don't really want to do season 3, because I'm on the fence about season 3. There's a lot of aspects of season 3 that are very good, but most of those things that I enjoyed about it are straight up copies of season 1. The shuffled chronology is just cloaked in the veil of Alzheimer's. The main character has Alzheimer's. Well, that's why we're cutting to memories, But that's just season 1 repeated. That's a bad sequel, a poor repetition, a poor clone of the previous material. This season at least tried to do something different. So you know what, guys? I'll say it now. I'm not going to do a commentary on season 3 or 4. This is going to be the last one. I'll do these 8 episodes because I still love this series, and also I'm nostalgically attached to it because I watched it during a tumultuous period of my life, so of course I'm going to be attached to it more than I should be. And also, rubber banding back to the show, speaking of being attached to something, look at this scene. There's butterflies on the wall, like monarch butterflies, like Project Monarch. Isn't that interesting? And he's making excuses. He's like, it's not that I'm gay. I just can't get a hard-on for you because I'm so busy with my work. The epic excuse. Sometimes that's true, but not in this guy's case, man. I mean, he's being blindingly obvious. So maybe if I ride my motorcycle at night fast enough, I'll delete my gayness. Maybe if I take insane risks and torture myself, I'll be able to account for my flaws. The correct thing would just be to come out as gay. That's, most obvious thing. Anyway. Or come out as bi, whatever you are, Yeah, society probably wants to kill you, but it's better to be visible, because if at least you have the balls to be visible in the gun sight of society, society's going to give you some respect just for putting yourself out there, willingly. If you hide like a worm or a rat, society will be a lot more judgmental of your flaws. Not because You have flaws, but because you tried to hide. That's worse. The act of hiding is the worst thing. But maybe that's bullshit. I don't know. That seems to be what this series is saying. Maybe it's just a mouthpiece for some creepy cult that wants you to divulge sensitive information to them so that they can use that information against you. I don't know. The black M on the little wooden stake at the beginning, a black M, that's kind of obvious, guys. Masons, M, really? You allowed this to be made? Are you guys asleep at the wheel? Are you retarded? Do you want your little cult to survive? Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? You allowed this to be made. This got disseminated. For fuck's sake. This is pathetic. If it was intentional, it was done in a sloppy-ass way. If it was unintentional, you dropped the ball. I definitely want to join you guys. You guys definitely seem like the smart ones. I'd rather die in the woods. I'd rather deprive you of all the benefits of my potential achievements, intellect, emotions, abilities, whatever. I'd rather just spite you and die. I'd rather kill myself just to deprive you of what I could give you. That would give me a lot more satisfaction spiritually than contributing to whatever your cause is. If you guys are this retarded, if you're this sloppy, this stupid, this shitty, this pathetic. I expected more, man. I didn't expect godlike perfection, but I expected more than this. This is sad. I'm going to go back up to wherever. Maybe I'll tell them, direct the asteroids. Direct the tarred meteors to blow this place to hell. There's nothing worth saving here. These people are so pathetic. They couldn't even sustain their own narrative. They couldn't even upend the shit quality invasive ideas that corrupted their own story. I mean, it's not a performance of weakness. Sometimes you have to perform weakness to survive. But past a certain point, it's not a performance of weakness. It's not an illusion meant to sustain or bolster the narrative. It's just incompetence. You've let illusions and weaknesses in that shouldn't be here. The whole game is fucked now. It's like if you replaced the checkerboard with a dung heap. How do you know which piece is going to move to which place if it's all just a pile of shit? Oh, queen to rook 6. There's no rook 6. It's all a septic field. How can you move your pawns if there's no checkerboard? If the whole playing field is a corrupted, chaotic mess. If you're a Warhammer 40k guy, imagine if your tabletop was a pool table with human feces smeared all over it. How would you know where to move your pawns? There's no order to the board. If there's no order to the board, no ordered moves can take place. And again, we have this closeted gay guy. He wants to die. He's so obsessed with his unconfessed flaw that he wants to judge himself by harming himself. You don't have to abdicate judgment to an external authority. But you do have to acknowledge your own flaws for real in your mind. And he can't even do it personally. This is the type of guy who would benefit from going to church. You can still be gay, you can still have a husband. My God, in 2024, the Pope, or whoever the fuck that guy is who claims to be the Pope, has openly advocated fucking trans rights and all this type of shit. The bar has never been lower to confess. And this series predates that. This series is from 2019 or I don't know. It's pre-COVID, but it's late 2010s. In any case, let's rubber band back to the narrative here. This cop has found a corpse. The dude with sunglasses on that we've been seeing cuts to, who was obviously dead the first time we saw him. His body has been dumped in a random park. And our cigarette boy calls it in. Again, I'm not using the British term, I'm going to use the American term. Cigarette. Cig. And here we have our epic father figure. Man, what a Chad. You gotta drink just to raise your own son. What a Chad move, man. Wow. You're a real badass. Honestly, the soy boy JCPenney catalog type guy, just hand custody of the kid over to him. That guy, as effeminate as he is, would probably be like, okay, dude, if you want to not be a bullied fat piece of shit, you got to diet and work out. He's right. He's not wrong. It's almost like this guy represents an outmoded, desperate, late Gen X, early boomer philosophy of how to raise a child. You're raising a kid for a society and an era that doesn't exist anymore. It's your era. You're trying to make a kid according to your ideas of what that kid should be or do, or what their habits should be. That's torture. I mean, you're throwing your child into a cauldron of hell if you're trying to make them a clone of yourself. What a pathetic way of raising a child. It's my God, man. This guy peels into view. He's like, oh, I'm coked out and drunk, but I'm here to look at the crime scene, you know. And finally we have our characters meeting each other. You know, this first episode is like it's so rushed, man. Coming into this after season 1 of True Detective, it's like, God, it's like 2 different eras of TV. It's crazy. The pacing and the time devoted to each character is so different. And then it's like there's this forced, you know, good, bad, and the ugly eyeballing between the 3 characters. It's like, don't worry, we've established that these are our 3 protagonists. It's not 3 protagonists, it's twice that. Because each one of them has 2 ancillary characters that have to be developed. Whereas with True Detective, Rust had nobody, Marty had his wife. That was it. It was basically 4 characters. This series, it's more than double that. It's insane. Anyway, we're at the end credits, guys, so I'm going to end the recording here. I do hope you enjoyed the recording, and I do hope you watch this series. It is worth viewing. I do think season 2 is sufficiently honest and genuine in its premise and its execution that it deserves your viewership. So I hope you devote the time to it. It's worth it. It's a good show, despite my edgy criticism of it. Anyway, guys, that having been said, thank you for watching. Take your vitamin D and your vitamin C. Drink your water, hug a loved one, and as always, peace out, guys.